What is the volume of a cylinder with a circle radius of 8 and the length of 14? So this is a math question.
Oh yeah, I can take that. Now I'm a little distracted. Okay, so we're really thrown off now that Becca's not here, apparently.
Yeah, Becca does certain things that are just required by the show.
Right,
Nate and I just sit here and let them do it.
We're just kind of staring at each other like, wait, who's going to say this? All right. Anyways, volume of a cylinder. So I'm going to kind of sketch what that would look like. So it's got a radius of 8 and a length of 14. So I'm not going to draw a very good cylinder, but it is a cylinder-ish looking thing if you look at my screen. Yeah, so that's a pretty bad cylinder, but the cylinder. So when you think about cylinder, think about like a can shape, like a soda can. And when you have, when you look at your soda can, it might say like 12 fluid ounces. It's kind of talking about the volume there. So this has a radius of 8 and a height of a length of 14. We actually think of length and height kind of in the same way. But I'm just going to label this really quick. And sorry, Caitlin, did it say centimeters or? Oh, just a length. So we'll just call it units. So here's what to think about. I always give this very general equation for volume. So volume is area of the base times the height of the object. So I'm going to put over here B is area of base, and H is height of object. And the reason why I try to keep this really generic is, honestly, you have a lot of formulas you have to memorize in math and just a lot of different procedures. What we can do is kind of combine those, so when you're looking at volume formulas, you don't have to also think about all these volume formulas. If you knew all the formulas for areas of different shapes, then you can just remember this and apply this volume formula. So when we look at this, I kind of want you to imagine when we talk about volume, it has a base, it's a circular shape. And if you can kind of imagine that this circular shape is stacked on itself over and over and over and over again, that's where you kind of have that height of the object. So what we actually do is we find the area of the base first. So in this case, my area of the base is going to equal the area of a circle. So I'm going to write base equals pi r squared. Right? So again, that's just thinking about that two-dimensional shape that makes up this entire figure. So all we're going to do is I'm going to actually rewrite this equation, volume equals, and where I have this area of the base variable, I'm going to plug in this, which is pi r squared. So I'm literally just substituting this in here. Pi r squared, and then height. So again, Caitlin, when she asked the question, mentioned length, but you could call it length if it was laying on its side and call it height if it's standing upright. It doesn't really matter that much. But when we talk about the height, we're talking about the height of the entire object. So the height of the object is 14. I'm going to leave this here for a second, though, because I think it's always a good idea to write out the equation before you start plugging numbers in so you don't forget any part or mix anything up. So now we're literally just plugging things in that we know. So we're looking for the volume. It equals pi. Now instead of r here, we know the radius is 8, so we're going to plug in 8 squared, and then the height is 14. So you can kind of see if I set up the equation first and I take that extra 15 seconds or so to figure out what the appropriate equation is, then the plugging it in seems a little bit more straightforward than trying to do everything at once. And I'm literally just going to plug this all in my calculator. So what I'm going to do is 8 squared times 14. Oh, 1 second. 8 squared times 14 is 896. And I'm still left with this pi. So this I want to kind of leave you with two options. If your teacher asks you to solve in terms of pi, this is the most precise way to do it. Just leaving it as 896 pi. But if you were solving an application problem, just imagine you were talking to somebody and they said, how much soda can you fit in that can? And if you said 896 pi fluid ounces or something like that, it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. So in that case, you would want to go ahead and do this simplification in your calculator, which is going to be rounded to 896 times pi. We're going to round to 2,814 point, and we'll call it 87. So it was 867, and I'm just rounding it to 87. You just have to think about like what you're being asked. Sometimes when you're rounding, you think about the context. If I was talking about money, I would round to something like this, 2 decimal places because of cents. So sometimes it's very obvious what you should round to. Other times, maybe the problem says round to the nearest tenth or round to the nearest hundredth. So just keep that in mind. So hopefully that helps.